Hey everybody, welcome to the first video in a series of tutorials covering the amazing C++ language. C++ is a super powerful language and you can do a ton with it. So let's get right into it. What I like to do to start off a C++ project is head over to replit.com. Might have heard of Replit before. Replit just makes it easy to open C++ projects without having to download a bunch of compilers or things that'll help you compile your C++ code. So I jump in here, I'm going to create a new project here. I'm going to go into my C++ template. I'm going to name it, let's call it the best project ever. And hit create replit. And you'll see we got three windows here that we're going to be working with. If you don't have any experience working with computers, this might be really unfamiliar to you, but it's pretty simple, so don't get overwhelmed. On the left here, we have our file structure, and it's shown in a pretty plain way, and we got some tools down here that we'll be working with. In the middle, we have the part where we write code, and on the rightmost side we have two windows, the console and the shell. And I'll just talk about the console for now. The console is where we're going to be outputting stuff that we write in our file. So let's get right into the main.cpp file. The main.cpp is the name of our main file. When you're working with a C++ project, you can create a bunch of different files that can work together, and they all work off of the main.cpp file. This very first line, hashtag include, we're going to be including a library of code called the IOStream library. And basically all that does is we're going to be using other people's code that allow us to read and write to the console. And we got these 3 through 5 lines, int main, parentheses, brackets, and some other stuff here. The int is short for integer. I'll explain that later. Main is the name of our function, and whenever we're naming a function, we have to include two parentheses. And we always have to have an opening and a closing bracket, and anything that goes in between those brackets is our function. So we got this std : cout, and I know what you're thinking, no, that doesn't stand for sexually transmitted disease. Get your mind out of the gutter. We got, that stands for standard, my friend. And we have : cout, that's console out. Anything that follows console out and these little two caret things will be output to the console. And notice we always end a line in the function with a semicolon. If you don't end it with a semicolon, your computer freaks out you, and everyone will know that you're a noob coder. Don't let yourself be known as a noob coder. So let's just output this, and we'll click run here. We got this stuff. This is the way that your computer says run. We say it this way, your computer says it this way. And let's see what we got here. We have a hello world, exactly what we were expecting. Now let's go through this thing. So this int is what our function will return. Don't worry about that for now. We have cout, as I said before, console out. And you'll see we have these two quotation marks here. This tells the computer that we are working with a string. A string is basically a run of characters that we want our computer to treat as one whole thing. And we can do a lot of different things with it, but for now just know that's a string. This little /n tells our computer to drop down a line. So you'll see right here we have hello world, and then the computer, once our cursor gets to here, it's going to drop down one line. So that's what that does. And we have a lot of different things that we can do with this. Let's see what else we want to write here. Let's do what's up, guys. We can run that again, and we get what's up, guys, print to the console. Beautiful. You'll see how I was talking about before. This is our cursor. If we don't include that /n, then it won't drop down a line. Don't worry about that for now. So this is one of the easiest things that you can do with the C++ file. Now I want to talk about the file structure of a computer, because that's one of the most important things, I would say, in working with a computer, because everything your computer does works within a file structure. So let's look at that in our file structure here. So you'll see we have files, main.cpp and main /debug. Those are two files that we have in the directory files. Another name for a folder is a directory. You'll hear that a lot if you're working with computers. So let's make a new folder here. Call it new folder. And now we have a new folder there. Great. So if we click on this, we can see we have a drop-down menu. You can add another file or another folder. And that's just the way computers are. You can always be adding folders or files. Let's add a new file here. We'll call it new file. And whenever you're working with files, you always have to give it an extension, because your computer has to be able to identify what type of file you're working with. And the most common type of file extension is .txt, which is just a text file. It's a type of file that contains text. Hit enter on that, and now we have a text file. Now, I know it's kind of weird that every file contains text, so why aren't they all .txt? But it's just the way that your computer works with that file. That's what you're going to use as the extension. So with our new file.txt, we can include whatever we want here. We can say, hey, what's up? This is my first .txt file. And we can save that. Control S. And the reason this is important for C++ is because within C++ we can use .txt files in our program. I won't show you that for today because that's a little more complicated. But just know that within their computer, you're always going to be working with files and folders when you're writing a program. So I want to also show you what the shell is, because the console is where you're going to be outputting stuff. The shell is where you can talk directly to your computer and work within that file structure on the most basic level. So here we have like the, what would you call, like the interactive version of the shell. Let me show you what it is right here. So we have, this is called our working directory. This is the file we're in, basically, sorry, the folder that we're in right now. The squiggly line is just an abbreviation for the home folder, or the most basic folder that you're in. Let me show you if we do pwd, this is a built-in command that we can work with in our shell. Hit enter, you're going to get this path. And this is a path to our working directory. So we have /home /runner / the best project ever. And these were created when I created my Replit project. So whenever you're working with a folder, you always have a path to that folder. And that goes the same for our files. So let's see what are the files that are in our working directory. If we do ls, enter, we can see a list of the current files that we have in this directory. Now I know this sounds extremely exciting, but there's actually more that we can do with this. We can hop into our new folder, the one that we just created over here. We just created it on this side, but it actually was created in the shell, or the most basic part of our computer. And we can hop into that new folder by doing cd new folder. And now we go. Now we're in the new folder. And whenever you're going to be working with folders, if you want to access or enter that folder, you just do cd followed by the name of the folder. So what I want to do now, I'm just going to print again the names of stuff in this folder. And you see we have that file that we created on this side as well. So it's all connected. All of this is connected, even though it might seem separate. Everything that you see here, you can work with on this side, and everything that you work on here, you can work in there, and vice versa. So it's all connected. It's a little difficult to see how it works once you're first starting. I remember that was like one of the hardest things, is just working through the file structure. And working within the shell is going to be insanely powerful and a very important skill to learn. Do not underestimate how important working with the shell is. It's a little tricky because you don't really know what commands you can use. Here's one that'll help you though. If you do help and enter, you'll see a list of a bunch of different commands that you can do. That's pretty much a go-to if you're ever confused about what you need to do. You can hit the help. You have a bunch of different options here. You can do clear. It's the one you've seen me doing. That just clears everything that was on the screen. And so we just figured out how to access different files, different folders within our file structure. If we want to go back to a previous folder, we're going to do cd and dot dot, and that just lets you go back a folder. So now we see we're back in this folder again, and let's clear that. Say you want to do what you did over here on this side, but within the shell you can actually do that, because what you're doing on this side is essentially running these commands, but they're in an interactive form. So what we're doing over here, let's say we want to make a folder. So we're going to say mkdir, that's short for make directory, and we'll name it new folder 2. Enter, and you'll see we have that new folder 2, and we can actually see it over here. We just created it right there, see? Kind of nifty. And if we want to create a new file within that folder, let's go into our folder here, cd new folder 2, hit enter, clear that up, and you see now our working directory is new folder 2 in the best project ever folder. Just so you guys know, always be sure that you're working within the right folder. Even if you're not sure, just hit that print working directory command and you will know what folder you're in. So let's make this new file. The way that you create a new file within the shell is you do touch. Just remember, whenever you're making a new file, you want to touch that file, and you're just going to name whatever you want. I always just like naming a new file. We'll name a new file 2 and end it with the extension txt and hit enter. And now we can open this up on this side and we can enter whatever we want. Hey, what's up? I created another file. And we can actually see that as well on this side. Normally, if you're working on just your home computer, you can do nano new file 2.txt, and it'll open a file editor within the shell. It will ask me to download something because I'm on the internet. So let's do that real quick. Let's say yes. And it will open up this file editor, and it seems like very, what would you say? I don't know. It seems like you're working on like maybe the first computer ever created. You know, like Steve Jobs and Bill Gates made this or something. This is what actually everyone had to do when they were first working with computers, is they were on this basic type of file editor. Now this is just what the computer, when you open up a computer, you know, this is the most basic file editor that you can use. So I won't explain all of that for now. I just wanted you guys to see that you can actually open up a file editor within the shell. And those are all of the commands that I want you to know for now. Just remember, we got pwd, we got cd, we have ls, touch, and make directory, or mkdir. Remember, directory is just another name for folder. So once we get all of those down, those are really important to know. Now we can start writing our first project. So we output a string to start. Now let's try outputting a number. So what we want to do, we can go like this. Say, let's create a variable first, and we'll call this number. And remember, all of our lines need to end with a colon. And it's mad at me now because I haven't specified what type of data will be in this number. So I'm going to say int because this is going to be an integer. And there's two ways that I could do this. I could declare it as I have it now. So I'm just saying, hey, this is a number. It's an integer. I could call this whatever I want. I could call it, you know, Zaboomafoo. I could call it, you know, Darth Vader. I could call it Avatar, anything. I'm going to call it number so I know what type of data I'm working with. I can declare it like that, or I can set it equal to something. And when you declare it as an integer, you have to set it equal to an integer. So remember to do that. I'm just going to set it equal to 4. And I'm going to see out my number here. So remember, I set it equal to 4. So anytime I use that variable again, that number is going to be replaced with 4. And we'll see what happens if I see out this. It recreates my file and it outputs 4. Let's do another thing. There's another type of file, another type of data called a double, which is anything that has a decimal point in it. So computers, they are insanely smart, but when it comes to doubles, specifically in C++, when it comes to decimals, they're not super smart. So when you're working with a number with a decimal in it, you have to declare it as a double and just go like that. Let's say 4.2, and we'll hit run. So that's another important data type to know. Another one that we can work with is called a character, or char. And I'm just going to call this character A. Now, you saw that before we were working with strings, and strings are essentially just a group of characters. Your computer, it sees them as a group of characters. So we see we have a character A. We can say anything that's on our keyboard as a character. Now this is a number, but it treats it as a character. Let's call this character. So if you don't want your computer to be able to do any like arithmetic with that, you're going to declare it as a character. If I wanted my computer to be able to add those together, I would have to declare it as an integer, working specifically within C++. So I'm going to just call that, we'll do J. Okay, now we want to see out that character, and you know the drill, we just output that character to the console. There's a ton of different things. This is really important because C++ can only work with the data that you give it if you know what type of data you're working with. So say I want to add some numbers together. Let's go back to that, and we will just declare a number here. Oops, did that wrong. Number equal to 8. Say I want my computer to do my homework for me, and I want to be able to calculate number plus number. Now your computer can do that, but you have to store that answer somewhere. So you have to first declare, okay, what kind of result is this going to be? What data type? It's going to be an integer. And I'm going to name it answer. And I'm going to say that's going to be equal to my number plus my number. Now, if you can do this in your head, you know that 8 plus 8 is going to be 16. So we know that answer is going to be 16. We do C out answer, and we can do that just like this. Let's see. Oh, we got to do std, C out answer. Got this. Always make sure that your carrots are going the right way. And if we hit run, you can see we got 16. So there's a ton of different things that we can do with our function in here, but we'll end right there for today. And please, if you have any questions at all, just leave them in the chat below. And yeah, thanks for watching. Have a great one.